Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello and welcome to today's Battletech presentation. Today we are going to be looking at the Panther, another one of the Draconis Combined staple battle mech. Probably one of the light mechs you've seen just about everywhere. It's very, very common, not only in the Draconis Combine, but with everybody that actually fought the Combine in the past, or that served with Rasselhig and moved away after their territory was conquered by the various clans. It's a very decent trooper mech. It had its ups and downs through history, and we're going to look at why some models are a little bit superior and why some models might need a little bit more help. So let's get into it. Nowadays, we really associate the Panther with the Draconis Combine Mustard Soldiery, same as with the Jenner, a mech in the same weight range and the same unit class, let's say, because those two really work together very well in the lances the DCMS bring out forward. However, the Panther, a little bit like the Jenner once again, was originally set up to be a trooper mech for SLDF line regiments. Light troopers are always a bit of a gamble. We've got two very good ones here, the Horned Owl and the Wolfhound, both of which are very popular, very common. The Horned Owl being probably one of my favorite machine in terms of light trooper, because it really does almost everything really well. But sometimes, you try to make a light trooper and you start going into the weeds and into all sorts of different configurations, and you end up with really just a cavalry mech or a scout hunter. The Panther is really built in that one particular role from the start. While there were evolutions on the design, it remained into that role up until now, to be honest. The Panther is one of those mechs where the base design stayed more or less the same, even though it was commissioned a long time ago in 2739 by the SLDF to the company of Alshane Weapons. Alshane went and looked at the design specs that they were asked for, and they made a 35-ton machine with a top speed of 64 kilometers per hour. That's pretty slow for a 35-ton mech, I know. It uses a Linux 140, which is a pretty rare engine. Overall, it's not a common thing outside of Panthers from what I understand. It was, however, designed to be standard from the ground up. Outside of that engine, that was a little bit odd, with 7.5 tons of standard compound armor and 14 heat sinks. You did get a boost in mobility using 4 Lexington lifter jump jets, giving you a jump range of about 120 meters. Lexington lifters are fairly popular as far as jump jets goes, very efficient, which is probably why the DCMS kept them on the Panther later on, even though they're not huge fans of jump jets most of the time. This original 8Z Panther had a Tronel large laser in a rather terrible mount. It generated more heat than it needed to have and was hard to maintain. And in the center torso, had a 4-tube SRM launcher to use against tanks and other close-by targets. On paper, the 8Z Panther was pretty good. The targeting system was really great for anything that's close range, and the jump jet placement allowed the Panther to just jump in and out of tight spots really effectively, even not going in straight lines compared to what most jump jet allow you to do. So that was really nice. The real problem, though, was that large laser, which generated tons of excess heat and extra strain on the focusing lens, which caused it to fail at the worst possible time. And it was a complete failure at the first mass deployment of the unit at the Battle of St. John, which was against pirates. Alshane, however, didn't give up, and what they decided to do was work on a solution, leading to the introduction of the Panther that most people know, the 9R series. By the time that new Panther entered production, the Star League was disintegrating. Factories in New Oslo for Alshane decided to just start building the mechs for their new feudal lord in the Draconis Combine. The main modification there is to take out that Tronel large laser and replace it by a rather ubiquitous Lord's Light PPC. It's probably one of the PPC that's the most available on the market nowadays. And even though it generated more heat, well, it didn't really, because the large laser was generating the same heat as a PPC at the time of shooting. The other advantages was it had more punch and more range. While you do have a minimum range on a PPC, the targeting computer on the Panther kind of compensates for that a little bit, so it's not as terrible. To make room for this, you do have to remove one heatsink and reduce the armor to 6.5 tons. It's not a huge trade-off for the advantages the PPC gives you. This really was the standard Panther for centuries. Generals and Panthers really formed the core of light combat lances for the DCMS. Both were fairly mobile, resilient enough. The Generals could flank while the Panthers held the line, and it supported other light mechs that you would be able to put in those different formations. There were no variants of the 9-hour outside of a very specialized model used by the Amphibian Light Assault Group, a specialized group, once again, in the DCMS, which took out the jump jets from the machine to replace the engine with a larger Omni 175, giving their Panther 9 a lag, a top speed of 86 kilometers per hour on the ground, but no jump capability. Is it a bad setup? I don't think so. Just not a thing that you're going to see huge amounts of, and it's not something that was reflected in later models either. During the Clan invasion, the people at Alshane lost their facilities on New Oslo, and this caused some issues in the Inner Sphere and for House Kurita specifically. Akazashi Enterprises jumped on the occasion to actually start producing a new machine with new standards, leading to the 10K series, which was not as modern as you would like in the Clan invasion era, but good enough for House Kurita at the time. Alshane, on their end, moved the production of the machine to their headquarters on Tokdo, probably hoping House Kurita would recover the worlds that they've lost before too long. The Panther 10K saw the light in 3051, start coming out of those factories from Wakazashi. To save some weight, the 10K series skeletons are rebuilt with endo steel, saving you just enough to make a few changes to the design. To get better range, especially when fighting those clan mechs who always have better range than you, the Lord's Light PPC is replaced with a Lord's Light 2 ER PPC, which generate 50% more heat. The 4-tube SRM is guided by an Artemis 4 system, giving you better accuracy overall, but I would say that this is a bit of a waste. They should have probably used that 1 ton from the Artemis to put more heat sinks in or more armor in, or start working on actually designing a Streak SRM4 in advance. That particular mech still used single heat sinks, so the heat curve was rather terrible on it. A field refit, the 10KA replaced the ERPPC with the standard Lord's Light PPC. You lose on range, but you control those temperature spikes a lot more, but it's not a great improvement. There's a second field refit with double heat sinks. That was fairly common, and it led to the creation of the 10K2, which actually houses a pair of SRM4 in the center torso with no Artemis guidance and double heat sinks. This one here, very, very good. Gives you a very nice punch at short range, great at destroying vehicles, and that PPC, well, still deals decent amounts of damage. There was another refit from the 10K series, the PNTC, which took that Artemis system out and replaced it with a C3 Slave. Once again, I think that's a better investment of resources on that mech. The main problem with the 10K series was really that it ran stupidly hot, and a lot of pilots were not big fans of that. Akazashi did respond to this in 3064 with the PNT-12A, which first and foremost used double heat sinks as standard on the chassis, but only using 10 rather than the original 13. To reduce the heat curve, they also replaced the gun with an ER large laser and a coaxial medium pulse laser, both slave to a copy of a clan targeting computer that they managed to figure out how it works. That 4-tube SRM also was now equipped with streak technology, so every shot that you took with it actually counted. Is it a terrible machine? I actually think it's pretty good. You lose on the heavier punch from the PPC with that ER large laser, but adding that medium pulse laser gives you a decent amount of firepower in that closer range, where sometimes people will get into just to think that they are going to evade some of the shots from that Panther PPC. It's not a machine that is extensively common. Those 10K configurations from before are more common, even the double heat sink ones. But this one is still fairly popular in the DCMS. There are 2 other 12 series mech, both with the K identifier as well. The 12K2 keeps the basic idea going using the double heat sinks, and an ERPPC. The main difference on this one is that the missile bay is replaced with a 10-rack MRM, which at this point was proprietary technology to House Kurita, and they're still almost the only ones using that kind of equipment. Not a super huge fan of MRMs personally, but that's because I'm too used to clan LRMs, which makes them kind of useless. In many situations, I think MRMs are usable. I've never really had to mess with a 12K2 very often, however. The 12KC is a clan inner-sphere hybrid using some parts from clan Novacat, and it uses 11 clan double heat sinks to soak up the heat generated by an ERPPC and a medium laser. You get a C3 boosted slave to help with the targeting, and it also is made to fight against House Davion with ballistic reinforced armor. I guess they could be used against some Ghost Bear people, but not that many. It really depends on what you get to fight. I'm not a huge fan of ballistic reinforced armor, but I know it exists and I know why it exists. If you were to change the weaponry to clan graded one, it would probably be a pretty decent clan light mech, at least in that particular category. But if you start looking at the price point you would be paying, you'd probably be better off getting a Pouncer, a Cougar, or an Adder. Next up, we have the Panther 13K, which was released in 3076. It's pretty darn rare, and I would say it's a Panther in name only. Uses a 175 XL engine and an XL gyro with 8 improved jump jets to be able to jump 240 meters. That's pretty good with how agile the Panther is while jumping. You do get more speed as well, a top speed of 86 kilometers per hour. But then again, you start thinking about it, it doesn't say Panther. You still have that SRM-4, but your main gun is also replaced with a plasma rifle. So it's not a... Well, it is an energy weapon, just not a direct focused energy weapon, and you need a shooting foam in order to keep it going. So it's not as good as a Raider. You get a little bit less range as well on the plasma rifle compared to the PPC. But I think the thing that's the worst about it is just how ugly it looks compared to the regular Panther, as we have that picture here showing. Even the Word of Blake had access to Panther production, and they made the best of it. The PPC is replaced with a snub-nosed PPC, which is lighter but has a shorter range, and the missile system is replaced with 2 dumbfire rocket launcher 10s. You also get a small cockpit because, you know, the pilot can be comfortable, and you get 6 improved jump jets, so you're able to bounce 180 meters, which once again is pretty decent on a Panther, which is an agile little jumper. What you don't have, though, is double heat sinks, so you will run rather hot if you jump and shoot that PPC. If you don't, well, it's going to be reasonable with the amount of heat sinks you have. The most recent version of the Panther is the PNT-14R, which is an upgrade kit that combines clan and inner-sphere technology now that our people at House Kurita basically ate up all of clan Novacat. It is meant to be used to fight clan Ghost Bear mostly, probably House Davion as well. The heatsink kit is replaced with a clan double heatsink cooling kit, which is perfectly reasonable, and the SRM tube is a clan grade 4 tube SRM. The ERPPC remains an inner sphere grade 1, which is absolutely silly, but it's just what they've done with it. The engine is linked to a supercharger, so you can get a top speed of 86 kilometers per hour in short bursts, and the armor is rebuilt using ballistic reinforced plating, once again, to be able to fight against House Davion and some of the heavier bear units. Light and medium troopers are a necessity in warfare. They were far more popular during the Succession Wars era, but they're still incredibly useful nowadays, especially when you're on a budget as a mercenary unit or as a smaller house lord. Formations of enforcers, panthers, blackjacks can easily be overrun by faster units, but you can still use a group of them to overrun an enemy defense as well, just by being slow and steady. They can serve as an anchor in assault. They can be used as flankers because they're able to jump. Light troopers and medium troopers are going to be useful in so many little roles that they're going to end up being a thing that you need to shoot at and concentrate fire on, or you're going to be in trouble. I really don't see the Panther going anywhere anytime soon, and especially with all the factories still building them. And we still see quite a few of them here in the Rimward periphery, just because of how many mercenaries have access to them as well. So I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day. I thank you for listening to me for so long, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.